Hi, I'm Madeline, and my social psychology study is on prejudice and discrimination, specifically on the topic of masks. So the question was, how does or will COVID-19 impact us in the eyes of social psychology? For me personally, I see it a lot in school and especially on social media where people tend to associate the fact that if you wear a mask, you're assumed to be a liberal, and if you don't wear a mask, you're assumed to be a Republican. My study was designed to determine if that's a fitting stereotype or not. For my operational hypothesis, I would bring in 100 people, and out of those 100 people, 50 of them would be people who you would typically see wearing a mask, and the other 50 would be people who you wouldn't normally see wearing a mask. After determining if they're a mask wearer or not a mask wearer, you ask them their political party. After asking their political party, you can begin categorizing them into their own subcategory. This is where you might start to see the stereotype being proven wrong if you have a liberal who doesn't wear a mask or a Republican who does wear a mask. That's where that would kind of fall into place. To find this information, I would use structured systematic observation, meaning I would bring in my 50-50 strictly based on um, the mask usage. I would also find this information by completing a structured interview. After determining if they're a mask wearer or not a mask wearer, I would do a structured interview on their political party. So by the end of this experiment, we should be able to tell if the stereotype is true or not. The independent variable would be that I'm bringing in 100 people, and 50 of them would be people who wear a mask, and 50 would be people who don't. So that would be something that I can control. The dependent variable would be whichever political party they belong to. So, whichever they choose, that would be something that I could not control. Some confounding variables would be things like age, health, family living situation, and where you pull the people from. So, um, if we're talking about age, you might have someone who is young and is going off something that their parents are telling them or whatever their friends are doing. Um, You might also have someone who's going off of health conditions, whether or not they're in good health. If they get COVID, they might not be able to handle that. So that's something you have to consider too. That also goes along with family living situation. If they live with someone who um, is at high risk, if they get COVID, they might be wearing mask. Um, and one thing that is really important to pull out is where you pull the people from. So, if you're taking from a place like a doctor's office, you're probably going to find more people who are wearing a mask in there just because it is a doctor's office, they deal with sickness, and that's just a place that you would see people wearing a mask. If you're outside and you're pulling people from outside, that might be a little different because they're outside. So, you might not see a lot of people wearing a mask.